Okay, so we're going to go over the guided test prep. So you got this data here, which all the questions are asking you about. And it reads, here again are the results from the January 2007 Gallup poll example from your textbook regarding what respondents were most looking forward to seeing during the upcoming Super Bowl. So here are the results. So I guess their choice of response was they were looking forward to seeing the game most, commercials most, or they won't be watching at all. And they sorted the results in those responses and in these categories of male and female. So it says fully describe what the 132 represents in this data. Well, if I was looking for 132, that's from this box right here, which looks like it's males who won't be watching. So I'd say 132 males won't be watching the Super Bowl. Okay, so the next one says describe the who, what, where, when, why, and how for these data. Okay, who? Well, I'm assuming they surveyed, it's people, but I'm assuming Americans because Super Bowl is an American thing. So I'm thinking they probably did this survey here. If you don't want to go out on a limb and make that assumption, you can just write 1,008 people, but I'm going to say it was 1,008 Americans because Super Bowl is not, Super Bowl is a US thing. Okay, the what is always going to be the kind of like the categories that they were surveying about or finding information about. So the what here is one of the categories is going to be their sex, right? And the other one is their response. And within those responses, we were looking to know what they were most looking forward to. So these things tell us what they are most looking forward to. Okay, the where, it didn't specify where exactly this took place. So I'm going to put not specified. Okay, the when, that was specified. That was January 2007. Okay, the why, it did not tell me specifically why they were doing this research. I'm guessing it was for some kind of market research, but it didn't exactly state it, so I'm going to put not specified. And the how, it did not tell me how they took this poll. I don't know if people were mailed a survey, if they were like at a grocery store and they were asking random people. I have no idea. So we're going to put not specified for that as well. Okay, so next question. What percent of people were males? So this is asking me what percent of people, so that's my denominator there. Okay, were males, so this is going to be my numerator. So when I'm looking at this, it's looking like total males were 492. Out of total people was 1,008. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get that percentage. And when I round to the tenths place, it's giving me 48.8%. Okay, of people were males that were surveyed. Okay, the next question is what percent of those looking forward to watching commercials were male? So what percent of those who are looking forward to watching commercials, I know that seems long, Okay, that is going to be my denominator. And then we're males, so this will be my numerator. Okay, so I'm only interested in the percent of those who are looking forward to watching commercials. So when I'm looking at the commercial category, I'm looking at the total people that were interested in watching commercials. That is my denominator. It's 237. Okay, my numerator is out of those people, which ones were males. So out of those that were interested in watching commercials, it was 81 of those were males. So that's going to go ahead and give me 34.2% when I divide and round of those looking forward. I'm going to abbreviate here to commercials were males. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. What percent of people, so now we're just saying of people, so that's my denominator, which is going to take me back to my total people that we interviewed, which was 1,008, were males looking forward to watching TV commercials. So specifically, I'm looking for males looking forward to watching TV commercials. This is going to be my numerator. Okay, so my denominator is 1,008. It's the total number of people surveyed. My numerator is males looking forward to watching TV commercials. So when I go back up here, look at the chart, males looking forward to commercials is 81. So I'm going to use that number. So that's going to be my numerator. I'm going to go ahead and divide there. And I believe it rounds to 8.0% of people surveyed were males looking forward to watching commercials. Okay, let's take a look at the last one. Okay, so the last one, what percent of males, so this is my denominator, were looking forward to watching commercials. So this is my numerator. Okay, so what I need to look at is total males is going to be my denominator. So when I come over here, it looks like the total males surveyed was 492. So that's going to be my denominator. And out of those males, which ones were looking forward to watching commercials? That was 81. So that's going to be my numerator. I'm going to go ahead and divide there. And so that's going to be 16.5% of males were looking forward to watching commercials. Okay, so that is the first section there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn my page to the second part. Okay, so the second part is finding marginal distribution of responses. So it wants us to find the marginal distribution of responses. So what that means is it wants us to look at the margins, right? And I'm just interested in the responses. So how many people, the percentage of people who responded game, commercial, won't watch out of the total people. Okay, so I'm going to use this margin here because these numbers are giving me the total for each response. Okay, So for the marginal distribution of responses, the first one I would have is 479 divided by 1008. Okay, that is going to give me 47.5% of people, because this is out of total people, were looking forward to the game. I'm going to abbreviate a little bit. Okay, so now my next one will be this one, 237, right? This is the total for commercials out of 108. So 237, I mixed up those numbers, divided by 1008. Okay, so that's going to give me 23.5% of people were looking forward to the commercials. Okay, and then my last category was won't watch, so that was 292 out of the same number again of total. So this is going to leave me with 29% of people won't watch the Super Bowl. Okay, all right. So that's how we would find the marginal distribution of responses. Now, the next one says find the marginal distribution of sex. So on this one, what we would want to do is we would want to look down in the other margin at the totals for sex. So total male, total female, and out of total interviewed. So for this one, our first one, we're going to do 492 divided by 1008. Okay, that's going to tell us that 48.8% of people that were interviewed were male. Okay, and the next one is 516, because that was my total females out of 108, is going to give me 51.2% of people were female. Now, whenever you do these marginal distributions, you should always get that like these numbers here should add up to 100 or very, very close to 100. They might be slightly off depending on your rounding, but you should be within like 0.1% of 100, okay? Same thing here. If I add these two up, they will equal a total of 100%, because when you add together the males and the females, that has to give you 100% of the people surveyed, right? If you add together all of the people for the game, the commercial, the Super Bowl, not watching, the way they responded, that also has to be 100% of the people, right? So you can't do a marginal distribution and have numbers that don't add up to 100%. This is a way to double check your work, like when you're doing a quiz or a test, to make sure that you've got your numbers for your marginal distribution correct, is that these ones should add up to 100%, so should the other type of distribution. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to finding the conditional relative frequency of responses among females. Okay, so when it's asking you for the conditional relative frequency, this is like where we're going to be kind of like finding the distribution for one category. Okay, and so the hardest part is figuring out what they're asking you to do. Okay, so they want to know the frequency of responses. Okay, so I'm going to have all the responses, a frequency for each one, because responses is plural here. That means it wants to know for every single kind of response. So remember, the three options for responses here were the game, the game, commercials, and won't watch, right? So I'm going to have three numbers, okay, for this relative frequency. Now it's telling me among females, right? So I'm only concerned with the responses among females. So when I'm looking at my chart here, I'm only concerned with this data that's right here, okay? Because I'm only concerned with females, and I want to know the percentage of each response type out of these females. That's what this is asking me, okay? So my first one is going to be 200 out of 516, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and do 200 divided by 516. Okay, that's going to give me 38.8% of females were, and remember, these 200 were looking forward to the game. So we're going to say those were looking forward to the game. Okay, my next one is going to be 156 out of the 516. So that's going to give me 30.2% of females were looking forward to the commercials. Okay, and then my last one is going to be this category, won't watch. That was 160 out of 516. So that's giving me 31.0% of females won't watch the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's how you find the conditional relative frequency of responses among females. Okay, now we use these conditional relative frequencies to help us determine if there's an association or not. Okay, and so here it says, do you think response is associated with sex? Give statistical evidence to support your answer. Well, in order to determine that, I'm going to need to look at the conditional relative frequency for responses among males. Okay, I've already done it for females, but if I want to know if there's an association of response and sex, I also need to know these numbers for males. So I'm going to go back here and do the same thing for males. I'm not going to do it as extensively. I'm just going to really quickly abbreviate over here. So for males, it would be 279 over the total males surveyed was 492, which that's going to give me, it looks like 56.7%. Okay, and that's of males were most looking forward to the game. For commercials, it was looking like 81 out of 492. So that was giving me 16.5% of males were most looking forward to commercials. And then for won't watch, it was 132 out of 492, which was giving me 26.8%, okay, of males won't watch. So now what I want to look at is I want to look and compare these, okay? Because if the response is associated with sex, I would expect for these percentages to be a lot different. If it was independent of sex, I would expect that the distribution of responses would be the same for men and women, okay? Now, when I look at the distribution of responses and I compare them for looking at the game, okay, those that were most looking forward, I got 56.7% men compared to 38.8% women. That's significantly different, okay? Then for commercials, I've got 16.5 compared to 30.2, also significantly different. Now, it's getting a little closer here for won't watch, 26.8% of men and 31% of women, but it's still pretty far away, right? That's like 4 percentage points. So I'm not seeing really any similarity here in any of these categories. And in order to say that they're independent, they would have to be really close together for all three of these categories, okay? And they're not. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to say that because the distributions are so different, that I feel that there is, that response is associated with sex. So response does seem to be associated with sex. Okay, so then it says give statistical evidence to support your answer. So the distribution of responses among the sexes is significantly different. And then I'm going to use some data to support that. Okay, so for, I guess you could call it the game response, we've got 56.7% men versus, what was it, 38.8% women. Okay. For the commercial, we're comparing 16.5% of men versus 30.2% of women. So here we've got some significant differences in these categories, right? So for game, the percentage of men was much higher. For commercials, percentage of men was much lower. Okay, when we're comparing men to women, all right? So that's my statistical evidence that I'm going to provide to support my answer, okay? Let's look at the last one. So the last one says, does the bar chart support or refute your claim? Explain. So when I look at this bar chart, I'm hoping it's going to support my claim, right? I'm hoping that what I claimed up here can actually be supported by the graph here. Now, if I look at the graph, this darker bar is male, and it appears the slider bar is female. So when I'm looking at the graph here, I am seeing there's a big difference in the percentage of males versus the percentage of females that chose the game. I'm also seeing another big difference here between male and female for males that chose commercials versus females, right? It's closing the gap here a little bit closer, right? These are more similar, but I'm definitely seeing some big differences here and also some big differences here, right? With males being much higher here and males being much lower in this category, which is what I said up here originally, right? So I'm going to say that the bar chart does support my claim. Okay, and then it wants me to explain why. So we can visually see the difference in responses for game, male is higher, right? And commercial, that one male was lower, right? I mean, we can actually see it right there in the chart, right? Here, male is higher, here, male is lower, right? So the chart does support our